Good evening. It is the Daytrippers. It is a Monday night. It is our spiritual home. It's the forum. It's me, Ray, your host this evening. And alongside me tonight are three distinguished guests. The first is one of the originals, Andy Young. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm good. I'm extra happy tonight with me brand new flag behind.
It's looking good.
Courtesy of Mark, yeah, delighted.
Brilliant. And that leads us into Mark. Mark, welcome first time on. Homemadebanners.co.uk is your business, which appears to be flourishing. So how are you doing, Mark?
Yeah, doing okay, thanks, yeah.
Excellent, good stuff. And we've got Mr. Fundraiser himself. We've got Shane Davo doing some sterling work, absolutely killing it, looking at these regular updates from all the boys who've been out there fundraising for Kean. And I think you've got a bit of a shout out and a bit of a thanks for some special donations that have come in this evening, Shane.
Yeah. Listen, I want to thank Tayrock, Tree Retro, and Manscaped. Really, started off thanking them because they dropped up some stuff for myself and the rest of the lads. Some gifts, some jerseys, some watches, obviously some Manscaped stuff, and the lads are blown away. They're after being on to me before they come on. They want to thank all the lads and the trippers as well, because I know that Gav has been behind an awful lot of it. So from myself and all the lads and really everyone that donated, it was hard going for us, but it's nothing to what the family are going through. So thanks to everybody who donated. You're all great. That's it.
Yeah, it's been a break.
I don't remember Bob Geldof or Freddie Mercury getting prizes after their fundraising.
I'm sure they got plenty, but they didn't.
They weren't advertised.
I'm sure there was plenty back in the day that was going on. But look, so we've got the usual, I guess, format tonight. We've got the four topics. There's a game that is still going on. I'm gonna keep a lookout for comments just in case there's any late drama there. It was 0-0 when I came on a short while ago, so it is a pretty crucial game. But we're gonna cover. First up, we're going to cover Andy's topic, which revolves around Trent. We'll then cover myself wanting to discuss the kind of the sort of the Punch and Judy show that's now becoming kind of Neville and Carragher, and a lot of tit for tat that seems to be going on, which is distracting from the actual job that they're paid for, which is being a football pundit. We'll discuss the front three and maybe some succession planning. And there's a lot of shouts for players who fans are keen maybe to come in and move one or maybe two on in the not too distant future. And then obviously, Mark, we want to cover off your little business, maybe big before too long, but we want to obviously cover some of the stories and some of the thoughts that have gone into some of the banners and the flags that is absolutely now entrenched in Liverpool fan culture. Must be said, it's a big part of who we are. So it'll be great to get some insight from yourself as to where the ideas have come from and some of the themes that obviously are starting to come in. And I'm sure there's some very creative things that you can share with us. So good to have you all on, boys. So we will go on to Andy's topic, and that's around Trent. Obviously, he got us out of jail in some respects on Saturday with that wonderful goal. Not the first time he's hit a screamer, but certainly in the context of what we've been through recently, it was absolutely massive. It puts us right in the mix now for top four. So Andy, Trent, lot of shouts about where Trent should be used, should be deployed. He's obviously had some shaky games recently as a right back. His England place effectively is under threat because it seems that the manager has no confidence in his defending abilities and prefers other England defenders. Where do you sit on Trent at the moment?
Yeah, he's been under the microscope lately, and look, I know we're adding to it now by talking about it as well still, but it just doesn't seem to want to go away, the talk of Trent. He's been overanalyzed in every single game. He had a great game against Arsenal, not so good a game against Real Madrid, and then he had a good game at the weekend. But he's the kind of there's such a microscope on it, and I think it's extremely unfair for a 22-year-old. And a 22-year-old who's played in 2 European Cup finals and had 2 seasons playing at right back with over 95 points in the league and being a hugely important part of that as well. And I'm not so worried about what the England fans are saying or the opposition fans are saying, because I normally ignore them. But what I would want to just bring up is just about our own fans and how our own fans see Trent and the idea of a moving into midfield. I always remember when he was breaking onto the scene, there was a lot of discussion about him moving to midfield. They said, you really see this player flourish once he moves into midfield. But what we've seen is him establish himself as our right back, playing effectively in midfield. So all that talk all along about movement midfield was pointless, I always thought, because he practically does play in midfield. When we've got Henderson protecting protecting him on that side, and we've got Van Dijk in the team, or we've Matip or Gomez, and we're at full strength, Trent doesn't have to do a lot of defending. So a top team like Liverpool, when everything's going well, you don't need those defensive qualities. He isn't a conventional right back. The game has evolved. Liverpool, their tactics have become where our fullbacks are creative players. So why people are talking all of a sudden now to move midfield, which would move some good players out of midfield, and then we'd have to go and buy a player of Trent's quality that when we do get going again to play right back, it just makes little sense to me. I think in the current Liverpool side right now, there's a lot of questions to be asked about his defensive duties. But when things are good again, and next season when players are fit, and we've got a handle on how we can play, how we're supposed to play again, there's no better position to play Trent Alexander-Arnold than right back, because he just doesn't play right back. He plays right up the pitch, spends more time in the opposition's third than he does our own third. He's ahead of Salah a lot on that side. He's ahead of a lot of our midfielders. So I don't know what the obsession is with moving into midfield. When things are going well, he's one of the best players in the world starting in that position.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, we'll come on to you. Obviously, you mentioned actually before we came on air that you're in the middle of doing a flag with Trent being part of the team. He's obviously quickly become a hero. He's a local hero. Obviously, it's always extra special when you have a Scouser in the team, as we've seen down the years. What's your opinion on Trent right now in terms of, look, he's a Champions League winner. He's won a Premier League. He's already could have been there and done it, and he's now kind of in a position where he's almost having to reprove himself because of a lot of the moving parts around him sort of being absent and whatnot. What's your assessment of Trent?
He certainly doesn't have to reprove himself to me, because the lad's got every quality you look for in a footballer. I think the thought of moving him into midfield is kind of, as Andy was touching on, it's an old-fashioned idea, an old-fashioned notion that you've got to, if you've got an extremely talented player, which is what the lad is, that you're going to get the best out of them by playing them in centre mid. And historically, you have seen most of the the world's most gifted footballers playing in those positions, or playing a little bit more advanced behind a striker. But as Andy said, the game's just changed, hasn't it? And particularly the way that Liverpool players changed, and under Klopp, our main focus from an attacking point of view has been about this overlap on the flanks and getting those. But I mean, you've only got to look at the statistics from last season, the number of assists coming from Robertson and Trent, to know that that's absolutely pivotal to the way that we play. And you're not going to go out and find another one. So if you move him into the centre of midfield, where we're currently overstaffed, if anything. So there's no particular need for us to put him into midfield, because we've got players in that position who can do a fantastic job. They might not be doing it right now at this very moment, but when everybody's fit and well, and we're playing well, there's no real need to put him in there. If there was, then I could understand it maybe a bit more, the shouts to get him in there. But he's proved his talent for putting a ball in, and you're going to get that. You're going to benefit from that by him playing in a wide position.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Bailey's saying if you make Trent play as an orthodox fullback, he'd be wasted. He's just struggling because we're without our centre backs. I mean, he has got some of those important pieces around and missing, and maybe this is where he's potentially, over the course of time, not depending on who's the manager at England, he may not get the name, the sort of the first choice right back position, automatically, like any Liverpool fan believes he should absolutely be. But I mean, look, I guess it comes down to systems, formations, and you're right, Mark. I mean, in terms of what he has produced, his output that he's produced, I mean, it would surpass many teams' midfielders, who are in theory further forward on the pitch during a game. What he's done from that position has been phenomenal, really.
And the other thing that's been really important about the way that he plays is that range of passing that gives that quick switch across the field. That big long raking diagonal. It can completely switch the focus of the attack, and you don't get that from the middle of the park either. It's just is doing what he needs to be doing, as far as I'm concerned.
Davo, the other part of this, obviously, you move Trent further forward, then you've got to play either Nico Williams, or you have to spend some of your transfer budget on another right back. I mean, some of this just seems to be a little. We just end up creating additional problems for ourselves potentially, wouldn't we? There doesn't seem to be any real logic to it in that sense.
No, it's kind of football manager stuff, isn't it? Really, from some people like Trent. When was the last time Trent played central midfield? Probably when he was 18 or 19. No, but I mean, even when he was younger, when did he break into the team? When he was 19 into the first team, 18, 19. That's the last time he's played central midfield. So why do some of our fans think that we should take him out of there and put him in and play him in a position for Liverpool Football Club that he hasn't played in 4 years and hasn't played a senior game in? Because we all know what our fan base. Listen, I'll hold my hands up as well. I'll criticise someone if they play shit. Listen, they played shit. I thought Trent was poor the weekend. But if you look at his block of work since he came into the team, his defending's been good enough for Jurgen Klopp. So, if it wasn't, he wouldn't be playing. And he wouldn't be winning Champions Leagues or and European Cups. So I don't get over the calls really for midfield. More so to the fact that, listen, he could go and play in midfield. Look, I don't know. I didn't see him playing there for the under 17s or under 18s, but we all know what our fan base is like. It's not only ours with the way social media is. He could get put into midfield, have a bad game, and be absolutely lambasted for that. And the same people that wanted him in there will want him to go back. On your point, then obviously, listen, it creates like you're making two changes instead of making one type of thing, right? You're moving Trent into midfield. You're moving a midfielder out to get Trent in, and then you need to play somebody right fullback, and it's a knock-on effect. I think Trent is fine. The lads alluded to the way the game has gone. He's a playmaker from fullback, and I think possibly Andy was saying about not having, like, you're obviously missing your two centre backs if it's normally Matip or Gomez who's tight on the side of him. But I think Henderson is a huge miss for Trent defensively. He tends to be the one that gets over and helps him out and talks to him. We've all heard through COVID, when you don't have that shy crowd noise on, you can hear Hendo balling at people getting around. He's been the one. And also going further on up the pitch, like Trent links up with Salah so well, not even with assist-wise, with little triangles, stuff like that. And Salah's having a great season, so goal-wise. So, no, I don't think there's any... Listen, he played poorly Sunday. There is games this year, there's been a drop-off, but there's been a drop-off for everybody. And he's 22, and I think really, if I had to, like, kind of finish up on the point, I thought Shawnee hit the nail on the head in the fat back four last night. He's 22 and he didn't hide. He doesn't hide. He's always there. He wants the ball. If it's not going from, he'll keep looking for it. He'll keep looking to create. And that was just, and the winner showed that on the weekend. A mazy run and ends up on the far side of the park, and then an absolute screamer. So, listen, I don't think there's no issues with Trent as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So Andy, I'm just going to close this on back to you. One of the comments just come up there. It's moved on now, but basically saying that we're almost suggesting that the midfield is doesn't need to be improved upon, is flawless and whatnot. We know it's not. It's been a bit of a sort of disaster this season, and as Stephen Dunn saying, it's worth a try. The current lot need a boost. We've had challenges. I want to ask you, Andy, what's your midfield three? Assuming it's a midfield three, what's your midfield three at the start of next season? Assuming everyone's fit and assuming that Gini Wijnaldum moves on.
Yeah, well, it looks like Gini's going to move on, but if he is moved on, it's got to be Henderson, Thiago,
Fabinho.
Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago. I mean, that's it, isn't it? Do we bring in a player to replace Gini? I don't know. Can you replace Gini that simply? Or is that the midfield he goes, or are they going to change the system up a little bit? I don't know. Yeah, but right now that's what it's got to be.
I don't even know. I'm just hazarding a guess here, but I can't imagine those three lads have played a game together this season in midfield, just because of injuries and whatnot. Between and Fabinho obviously having to play games at centre back when maybe all three were, the small time when they were all fit together.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Between the three of them, they've all kind of spent time in and out of the team. Like, look, luckily Henderson hasn't had a serious injury in a while up to this one, but he does kind of spend. He picks up whatever muscle tightness, and he misses the odd game. We've seen Fabinho the same, and Thiago now since he's come into Liverpool as well. So it is a bit of a worry that you want to have three reliable players in the midfield, but could Trent go in there? Who plays? I don't know. Look, Stephen's right. It's probably worth a try. It's probably worth moving in there if we're stuck. But I don't think we're going to be stuck for centre midfielders. As Mark says, we are overstaffed there, and it's probably a chance that somebody else might come in.
Well, Curtis Jones it'd be taking Curtis Jones's place, wouldn't he? Essentially.
Yeah,
a lad who showed us an awful lot this season. Let's not forget, and look, he's been a bit inconsistent, but one positive coming out of this season is that we've been able to develop another lad who looks like he's at the very least squad ready. Best case, he's going to be able to make a significant contribution in future seasons when maybe, had things not transpired the way they were, he may still have had a massive question mark about whether he goes out on loan or something like that. Can't see Curtis Jones going out on loan next season. Now he's absolutely part and parcel of this squad moving into next year. Chris Brack managed to correct me there, or he managed to identify there was one game where the three lads played in midfield, and it was the
don't get that past Chris, Dicko.
No, I know it was the derby. It was obviously the game I was trying to forget. The game we'd all like to forget. The axis of doom it was, as it turned out to be on that particular occasion, and obviously we've never seen them together since, like we've never seen some other players since as well.
People talk a lot, don't they, about centre half partnerships and how they need time playing together, and it is the same with midfielders. Like you need that. Yeah. If you haven't had half a dozen games together, then you don't know each other's game properly, and it's and you can only simulate it so much in training. Is that we're not going to see the best out of Thiago at all until he's had a run of games alongside Henderson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but obviously, plenty of comments coming in around Everton slipping up again tonight. 0-0 was the final score. Everton refused to go past Liverpool in the league for some reason, even though they've been given every opportunity at this stage to go above us. So even with the game in hand now, I don't think they can go above us. So we are, I guess, focused on this top four big time. But I just wanted to move on to. Let's move it on. Neville and Carragher have been at it all back and forth, trying to score points. It was actually the Villa lads. There's one of the Villa lads who is a regular on the Friday night forecast with Chris, and he's a good lad. Listen to those shows, and he talks a lot of sense. So it was kind of no surprise to hear him and some of us other Villa mates talking in the wake of the defeat, and getting really wound up about the fact that when Trent's scoring that absolute screamer, the first kind of thought and comment is right back at Gary Neville and Gary Neville's thoughts and whatnot, in what seems to be a constant back and forth on Twitter between the same old picture that gets recycled time and time again of each of them holding a champagne bottle and the likes. It's starting to get a little bit like, yeah, we get it. And actually, part of me listening to the lads sort of bitch about it, the Villa lads, it seemed a little bit like sour grapes in some respects. By the way, I don't mind scoring last-minute winners against Aston Villa, especially after they spanked us 7-2 earlier in the season. And for some reason, I've always been at games where Villa have done, mad things like that season where Benteke scores, and they make us look like a bag of shite on that particular occasion at Anfield. So there was that was an element for me that the lads are majorly pissed off, and the fact that Carragher pisses them off even more over his comments. But like, they do have a point, Davo. They do have a point, don't they? About like, these lads are, they're paid a lot of money, yeah? Carragher, Gary Neville, ex-footballers, they're brought in for their insights, they're brought in for their experiences, what they can kind of, we're talking on these podcasts, we're talking as fans, we will never get to know anything close to some of the things that they should be able to educate us with and sort of tell us about their experiences in football. Yet they seem to constantly just engage in this kind of, as I said at the start, this kind of Punch and Judy, tit for tat. What's your view on it now? Is it getting tiresome for you?
Do you know what? It is a little bit. It doesn't tend to bug me as much as it does maybe other people. I kind of found myself really, Ray, over the last few months. I've no shame in saying it's probably coupled with Liverpool's really bad form. It's kind of hard to watch football without the fans. I'm not talking about just Liverpool games, or just me in general. And I've kind of found myself watching the first hour of Monday Night Football, then turning the game off. and maybe trying to pick it back up after for what they do. I just feel that Carragher probably seems to be towing a bit more of a line since what happened to him the instant they got himself suspended, and he's not as quick kind of to go against Neville as he would have been back then. And I kind of feel Carragher's gone a little bit more shouty recently, like trying to shout Neville down an awful lot more than he probably would have done. I think previously he was kind of better at making his points. Neville is far better at putting his point across really than Carragher. But I think it's really what it comes down to. I don't really like using the term, but it's kind of clickbait in general. Sky and Carragher and Neville and stuff, they want to get stuff out that gets clicks on social media and Twitter and get the hot takes out, get the headline, get people hitting the tweets, get people hitting links to what was said, and it's kind of more sensationalised. I have heard Neville before speaking, saying that they don't discuss what they're going to talk to each other or what points they are going to use with one another back and forth, which I suppose keeps it kind of original. But yeah, listen, it kind of tends to be more commentary wise. It annoy me rather than the Monday Night Football stuff where I'm going back and forth about the England squad. That didn't really bother me at all. That's just kind of opinion stuff. But the goal going in, and are you watching Gary Neville and stuff, and it can be the same. But Neville kind of go back and forth. I would generally agree with the thought that's out there that maybe Neville shouldn't be doing United and Carragher shouldn't be doing Liverpool. I tend to get behind that. I'm not really a fan of. I don't watch much United, but I'm not really a fan of Carragher doing Liverpool. I'd rather somebody else doing them. To be honest,
he seemed like I have people saying to me, even from my own mum, saying Carragher absolutely does it head in. Like there's just something about him that a lot of Liverpool fans find irritating when he's commentating on Liverpool games specifically. I mean, Mark, I guess we all have our sort of favourites and people who we don't like when we switch on the telly and we find out who's commentating on a game. Where do you stand with Carragher commentating on Liverpool games?
Well, he doesn't get on my tits as much as Matt Manaman, but
the fair point. Absolutely fair point.
I think it was quite an interesting that you've already raised the point about the incident that nearly ended his career when he spat at that fella in his car, and there's been a big change, I think, in the way that he does his job now since then. And I think basically both him and Neville, the way that they interact with each other, they're doing it because they've been told to do it, and they've been told to do it because it's box office. It's what gets neutrals watching and talking about things. It's all kind of part of this, which I've never really liked the way that this. It all started with Soccer AM years ago and all this kind of jokey banter around the game, and it's just puerile. I haven't really got much time for it at all. The way, and I think what I've noticed with Carragher as well is that he's so ready to jump on negative things around the Liverpool team at the moment. I think he seems to be, and I don't know if this is something that he's been kind of told to do, but he seems to be overcompensating for the fact that he used to be a Liverpool player by being really harsh on players in the current team. So yeah, and I think that I've just seen some of the comments coming up at the bottom of the screen there, and somebody mentioned that Gary Neville is actually a bit more switched on and a bit brighter than Jamie Carragher, and I think that's absolutely fair comment. And in a strategic battle of wits, I think Gary Neville's got the upper hand there all day long. So I don't think he does himself any favours, put it that way, by getting drawn into these things. And I think it might be popular with fans of other clubs. I don't know, but I don't. From the Liverpool fans that I know and talk to, he's starting to wind a few people up.
Yeah. Veranda Cheese, Andy, it probably should be no surprise that he started that Facebook page, which I do remember at the time.
Yeah.
Gary Neville.
Yeah. I signed up to that page, actually. I only put that comment up because it's the first clean comment from Veranda Cheese, and he's always saying, how come you never put me comments up? So look there, we had a clean one, so we stuck it up.
It was a fairly legendary page, but
yeah.
To be fair to Gary Neville, after such a rough start, no, he don't, like, when you're listening to him commentating on United games, he is, in fairness, being very objective, isn't he? He absolutely recognises and accepts, I think, that United have been in stages this season particularly woeful, and individual players have been particularly woeful, and they somehow managed to turn it around, individual brilliance, or someone pulls them through a half of football or whatever it is. And to be fair, he's accurate with his assessment of United. Do you think Carragher is being a little bit? He's gone the other way a little bit, and he is like, he's not. We know the reasons why we're down where we are, and we're in a scrap for fourth. Like, do you not think that Carragher is given that kind of, the platform that he has, he's not actually putting those, not excuses, valid reasons forward?
I just don't. I don't enjoy them as commentators. Like Davo said at the start there, that they don't bother him as much as they seem to bother everyone else, and that's kind of where I say. I think they were absolutely brilliant at the very beginning on Monday Night Football. I thought it was quite refreshing to see recent footballers, players that have played in the modern game, stand there and talk about football, and like, they were a hell of a lot more in touch with what gone before them. But then they start commentating, and I thought Neville was okay. And then when Carragher started commentating, he seems totally out of place. He's just like a fan TV. Remember Sky did that? Yeah. And he's kind of just shouty on his tones, and he's not able to articulate himself in the same way, Neville. And I think that's where Chris's point came. Neville is way more articulate. He's able to make a point a hell of a lot more polished than Carragher. And that's why he kind of takes him to task a lot. He makes a show of him. But when the two of them are actually not having this silly banter or not being tribal, they actually are really good quality pundits. And that's what it should be, I think, with them. The latest circus thing is just ridiculous. It's just a reflection on what the modern fan seems to want. It sounds like everybody's giving out about them, but Sky are no fools. They know that's what sells subscriptions. Yeah. Whether it's the younger fan or who it is, but that seems to be what the appeal is these days. I know them pair can't be the best available men or women to do that job. They absolutely can't. Now, I thought it was brilliant. You remember we beat Everton in the last minute, and Klopp ran onto the pitch, and Carragher let that scream out, "Look at Jurgen Klopp," and that really wound the neutral up. It really wound the Everton fans up, or wound United fans watching it. I loved that, but you have to draw a line underneath it. Like saying things like, "Hey, you're watching Gary Neville," is silly, because it's obviously gone to Carragher's head now that he thinks that him and Neville are like the new Ant and Dec, that they're darlings of the British public, that they see themselves now as the faces of football. And you know what? They're not. And they're far from it. No. And we were talking about Trent, and look, as Davo says, I'm the same. They don't bother me as much until they start doing damage. And they started doing damage, in my opinion, by analysing Trent the way they did. They did a 3-hour piece practically on fucking Trent and the England squad and where he should be this. Why would you do that to your own? Where's the sense in that? This is a player that's may or may not get into the Euros. Even if he gets into the squad now, he's going to have that hanger over his head, because Carragher, our next player, a legend of his own club was talking about him for so long, and the micro analysis and Neville, they shouldn't be doing that. I mean, you just don't do that to your own. The British media have had a tendency to do that, but Carragher, I don't like to see him getting involved. That's damaging. That's damaging to the player. He has a good game following it, and then he has a poor game against Madrid, and he heads a ball in the path of the opposition. And don't tell me that those things don't get into those players' heads. 22 years of age. What were we like when we were 22, Ray? You know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous. These guys should know better. And the pressure that they're putting a player like Trent under. So I think they should stick to what they're good at. And that's analysing moments of games, or different parts of the games that went the day before, the weekend before. But this Punch and Judy or circus that goes on when they're doing matches, like, there's games where they're both there. You know what I mean? Yeah, you've Tyler, like, as a cherry on top, and then you've Redknapp on the fucking on the sidelines. What the fuck is going on? Like,
but
who's making these decisions?
But like, even like a small thing from the game the other day, like the Rory let out when Firmino took that touch in the halfway line. Now listen, don't get me wrong, it was a good touch.
Yeah, I know.
It was a good touch.
I genuinely,
for a Brazilian footballer to kill a ball like that and do what he did, I thought was just kind of probably fairly standard. And like the Rory let out for that was probably a bit over the top. It's more as commentary for me than as punditry. And like, I know, going back to the point of them analysing in the studio, absolutely no doubt about it. Neville is far more polished at making his points and putting them across. But ultimately, it's opinion. Like, he used what players would who would they rather be up against if they played England? Trent or Kyle Walker or Kieran Trippier or whatever. And he's using examples of these fellas, and Mbappe and all that Trent has marked in games we've won on the way to winning European Cups. And the point that kind of stuck in my head, I didn't go back and check the goal or anything like that, but he kept going, like, if we play Croatia and Perisic is coming in, like, he'll make shite at Trent. Well, they knocked England out of the last World Cup and Perisic scored a header at the back post. I think, I assume Kyle Walker was on the pitch for that goal, I'm assuming. He was kind of banging that drum that Kyle Walker would be better suited to be able to handle these bigger players than Trent. And, like, that's just false. Like, that's like I said to you, it's an opinion that I think is wrong. Like, he's basing it off maybe Trent's last maybe 3 or 4 games, or maybe 2 or 3 months. Fair enough, his form hasn't been great. But like I said, Trent's block of work in the last few years, where he has been marking Mbappe and he has been marking these players, and we've been winning these games. Like, that's the kind of points that I'd be putting to Neville. You know what I mean? And in fairness, I'll shut up now, but in fairness, like Carragher said about England and stuff like that, is like, Neville was like, we're not going to have the ball. Look, why aren't we going? Carragher says, why won't we have the ball? We have these excellent players that can like dictate the play in the game against the Croatia. But Neville was like, kind of really, I suppose, giving an insight into what way the coaching at the highest level in England and the FA, the way they think, is that, listen, we can't dominate the ball against these teams, so we'd be more pragmatic and drop off. And I think that's probably more of a worry, that kind of mindset, rather than who's going to be a rifle, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, one of the comments that come in earlier, I think it might have been Matt Sweeney, but he was saying that actually, if you watch Carragher on CBS, he's actually very different, and you know, clearly what you're saying there, Mark, you know, Sky have some element of influence or hold on how he conducts himself in comparison to when he's kind of has a little bit more freedom when he goes freelance with the likes of CBS on a Champions League night. So that's interesting that he would be different in that way. So look, we'll wrap up that topic. I tell you what, we'll come on to you now, Mark, because I'm keen. We'll get off the player chat for a little bit. We'll go in a bit of a different direction. Keen to have a talk about your craft. And first of all, I've been trying to work out what that flag says behind you. So I got the top bit, the crown in the crown paints kind of font. What does the bot crown champions? Is it
Champions? Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, brilliant.
Class. That's class.
That's absolutely, that is absolutely brilliant. Just tell us a bit about, when this kind of kicked off for you, really, how long you've been at it, and I guess maybe a bit about Andy's flag that's sat behind him as well.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I've been regular match goer since around about the time that I graduated university, which was in 2000.
Okay.
And I made my first ever banner with my mate around about that time, and it was just like it was a red bed sheet, and it was just like made some stencils and painted some stuff onto it, and we took that to the game a few times, and then it was in the build up to the Istanbul final that I made my first like real proper stitched effort. It was and I've still got it, and it's kind of accompanied me on many an adventure, and that was, our lads have come from all over the place. They talk dead funny, but they play dead great from the Anfield rap. And I always took that with me wherever I went. I took it been taking it to the game for years. I've got a little speck up in the gods in the main stand at the front of the top tier, and I always hang my flags there. And people would ask me like, where did you get that from? And it's like, I didn't get it from anywhere. I made it myself. And they're like, started a few conversations at the game, and then it was. I made another banner a couple of years later in 2007 for the Athens final, but then it had been a long time since I'd done anything like that. I just kept taking the same flags to every game, and they were like a calling card kind of thing. But it was a few years ago. I was at the peak of my health, and I was like doing really well. I was running half marathons every week, and I was on top of the world. I just got married. I got married in 2015, and it was everything was going swimmingly. And then I had a really serious injury. I did herniated 3 discs in my back, at the bottom of my back. Jeez. And over time, like I fell into I had chronic pain and I'm sitting here now, and I'm in pain talking to you right now. But so over these last few years, it's kind of taken its toll on my mental health, and I've been really struggling. And it all came to a bit of a crunch around about the start of last year, really, and I had to take some time off work because I just wasn't doing very well. I wasn't in a good place at all. I'm a teacher in my day job, and so my work organised for me to see a counsellor, and it was from a conversation that I had with that counsellor that I kind of got into what I'm doing at the moment, because we talked about how my running had been like so important to me as a way of decompressing and as a way of like sorting my head out and getting just getting things clear in my mind and a distraction from bad things that happen in work and in the classroom and things like that. And the counsellor said to me, well, is there anything else that you could do? Anything else that you enjoy doing that kind of gives you a similar kind of distraction? And I thought to myself, well, it's not the same, but whenever I've done these banners for myself, I've kind of got really absorbed into them, and I can kind of, just get in the zone, and I almost forget what I'm doing, and it's, I find it really just relaxing and absorbing, and yeah, so he said, well, why don't you go away and do one of them and see how you get on, and just try and kind of take the focus away from that pain that you're in all the time. So So it was something I started doing a bit more seriously. I made a couple of flags for myself, like this one, and there's one that's been on the cop during lockdown, which is you may have seen the World Beaters one in the Beatles font. So I made that one last year as well, and it's the problem that I had was it's a pretty expensive hobby to get into, because each one costs me, in terms of materials and sewing costs and whatever, cost me around about £100. That's my outgoings on one. So it's obviously not something that you can afford to do, to make one a week for yourself, you know, and also able to keep them. I wouldn't be making myself particularly popular with the missus, I don't think. So the work that I'd done for myself, my own banners, I'd kind of shared on social media, and it's shared on redandwhitecop.com, and some people were interested, and so I just thought I'd chance my arm and just say, if anybody wants me to make a banner for them, I'm happy to give it a go. And it was exactly a year ago, actually, this week, that my first proper commission came in from somebody that I'd never met before, you know, and that was, you know, it was quite a big leap of faith, because it was, you know, it's somebody parting with a couple of £100 on the basis of nothing really, because, you know, they didn't have any recommendations or anything. They'd only just like seen me making banners on Twitter and on Instagram or whatever. So yeah, it was that was like a real confidence boost for me, you know, and it just got me thinking, yeah, I can do this. And then over time, like they started to come in a bit of a trickle, but over time, I've got a bit more ambitious about the designs that I take on. I mean, you can see on Andy's flag there, that was the first, just behind Andy's head there, that UEFA Cup was the first time I've crafted that one. And you can see it's really, really elaborate and ornate, the way the decoration on that trophy, and that's all done from just using handcrafting tools. Like I've got a little scalpel and some sharp scissors, and I just craft away. So there's like, by layering up different layers of felt. And yeah, it's just, as I say, it's like really absorbing, and it seems to be pretty popular, thankfully. So
brilliant.
So, yeah.
I mean, you obviously, you know, you got connected with the right person there. Andy Young has got, you know, 200, 300, 400 quid spare at the best of times.
every week.
Well, you know, notions.
Nobody spend that on wine.
And a vodka.
So he bypassed the vodka for a week and managed to get himself a prized banner instead. So Andy, was the design? I have to say, it's a class design. It absolutely paints the picture of what supporting Liverpool Football Club is all about to me. You know, it parades it all basically. Was the idea yours, or did you kind of collaborate with Mark around some possibilities about what would be doable for you?
Yeah. No, look, before I say that, Mark, thanks for that honesty there. That's amazing. That's like some of the comments coming in, like that's a real life story there, and that you're an inspiration there to a lot of people watching, I'm sure. If you're ever struggling, find what you like and get stuck in. And I mean, I can't believe this was something that you've only took up a year ago, really taking it seriously. I mean, what you sent to me, I can't believe it. The art, it's commissioned artwork effectively. You know, I contacted Mark months ago, and eventually I came up near the top of the list, and I watched his designs closely on Twitter, and I was really looking forward to the chance to get together and design something. And I mean, I just can't believe what the final product, how detailed it is, and the quality. Even when I took it off the post, man, like the weight of the package. You know, I've had flags at games before, and they're kind of that silky material.
Yeah.
But this is like, this weighs a ton, and it's not till you can see it. It looks brilliant, but when you actually see it up close and you see the detail, and you know that such art has gone into it, it's amazing. But to answer your question, I just loved the Beatles song In My Life. It was one of our songs at our wedding, and to put it on a flag along the other passion in my life with Liverpool, and some of the trophies that have meant a lot to us all over the years. There's so many stories behind, and I remember talking to Mark at the start. Well, there's only really room for 4 trophies. Like, what should they be? Because I was thinking of maybe the Club World Cup, but it doesn't have such a significant value. I mean, it's the FA Cup there. Like, it's not the trophy it was, but it has so many stories and so many past the things that resonate with us, especially some of us that can remember. And then the UEFA Cup, it was bigger. The Europa Leagues, it's a bit of a joke now, but it led to so many. It was in between so much success, and they're 4 trophies to me that mean the most, and the job that Mark has done on them is incredible. I'm really bad with fonts, but he threw like so many different font options. We were talking about like a Beatles font, but we picked that in the end. And I mean, what you're getting, it's just incredible. You're really underselling yourself, Mark. You could, there's a tag on it. The Labour of Love, isn't it? You have on it. Yeah, it really is. And the story you have behind there has blown me away. I have to be honest.
Yeah,
Andy,
absolutely.
Andy, what's the plan with the flag? Is it like I'm not in the wind up now or anything? What's the plan with it? You got when you get back to Anfield, will you bring it to games? Is it going to be out the bedroom?
I was only saying to Mark,
match days?
Yeah, I'm actually I love it. I'm afraid to take it to the game now, but
because of the damage or of getting it lost or whatever that might come its way.
Yeah. It's probably haven't got the place, Ray, where in the centenary to put it, but I'll definitely bring it on my travels when we go back.
My suggestion would be, Andy, the next time we're able to travel to a European Cup final, that has to be the centre stage on our afternoon of drinking. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. I don't think it'll leave the house too often. But if there's those special journeys, in Europe, it'll definitely come with me, and I'm sure I'll hang it out the window when we're in a final, stuff like show it off to the neighbours.
You'll pick up some dirt and stains and bits of beer on it over the years. That's what gives it its character.
That's part of its authenticity and part
absolutely.
Of it's only just starting. I mean, just funny you say about the FA Cup. I mean, you say about absolutely. I think that has to be one of the 4 trophies that you put on, despite its lack of significance. It appears these days. I mean, I remember growing up. That was in the 80s, that was a really sought after trophy. I mean, we were winning league trophies, European Cups. That FA Cup was eluding us, and when we did eventually win it in 86, having had some disappointments in the 70s, like, it was massive. So they are absolutely the 4 trophies. Obviously no room for a League Cup on there, even though we've got a rich history, and we've had some memorable times going to games in the League Cup down the years. But no, it's absolute. I have to say, it's an absolute work of art. There you go, veranda cheese. You can hang it from the balcony in Santa Ponza. Yeah, when we're able to travel again. It's a brilliant shout. I mean, by the sounds of it, Mark, I mean, this is absolutely therapeutic to yourself. What's the what's the the future plan with this? Is it to, obviously you've got a very sought after skill in teaching, but like, do you see this becoming maybe your sort of your career moving forwards in terms of development?
No, I don't think so. I think what it currently does is it helps me to keep a balance in my life. It's I like the fact that my wife's just put my daughter to bed a little bit earlier, and this time of night is normally like my banner-in time. I have like a couple of hours in the evening, normally from about 9 till 11, when I can just get stuck into it, and it just helps me, like, because I, like most teachers, I have to bring home a lot of work and work through the early evening, doing marketing and planning and stuff, and so it's just that chance that I have to just put that to one side, and yeah, so I think keeping it as a passion project is what I want to do. And currently I've got the beauty of it is that I've got a big long waiting list of people. Like, I've got 40 names on my waiting list at the moment. Brilliant. And I average about one banner a week, basically. So I've got enough to keep me going well into the future. And obviously people keep showing interest and wanting to join the waiting list as well. So hopefully I'll just be able to keep ticking over at my own pace. Hopefully people will be patient with me, and they won't try and rush me, because I do want it to still be an enjoyable thing for me. I don't want to feel under pressure from it. And I think if I was trying to earn my living from it, then that wouldn't be good. At the moment, what it's doing is giving me a little boost to my income. It's helping me save for me little girl, So it's at the moment it's a real win-win situation. And if I stopped enjoying it, then it defied the point. So I just need to keep it on a small scale, I think.
Yeah. So by the looks of it,
that list is going to be longer than the season ticket list. I think now, shortly.
40 at the moment, average of doing one a week. So I'd say before you know it, you're probably going to be looking at a year's wait, I would imagine. But by the looks of it, Andy, I guess you would testify that even if it was a year's wait, it'd be well worth the wait. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was probably about 6 months waiting, maybe more.
Okay. Yeah.
But when you get,
and I think I probably promised you it'd be about 2 at the start today.
Yeah. But no, I waited patiently. Look, it's going to be such an amazing thing though to see our work when Anfield opens up again.
Yeah.
You've already got the Beatles one there on the cop as it is, but imagine the amount of them that's going to be in the ground, and you'd be just spotting them on TV all the time, And we have the group as well, the banner owners as well, and looking at some of the pictures.
We set up a little WhatsApp group, and we've got there's like 30 odd lads on there now who've all in the exclusive club.
So they're all over.
The honorary band of brothers with the souvenirs.
Yeah, so one of these fine days we'll have to get in a big pub beer garden and get them all out on display. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely. When the time's right and we can all get back, absolutely.
They're all unique as well. Like they're going to be collector item. You've only got one of one.
No, that's again, it's something that doesn't really interest me. Is people have like this one was quite a popular design when I came out with it, and I was putting it about on social media, and people were like, "Oh, can you make me one the same?" And I was like, no, because where's the fun in that? If it turned up and the cop was like a load of people all with the same flag, how stupid would that look? So no, it's got to be something individual to people, and because the beauty as well is that because I've got so many people who are interested in having them made, if somebody wants something that I don't want to do, I feel happy turning them away, and I also feel happy in advising people that no, I don't think you. To be honest, I don't think your idea is brilliant. Have you thought about doing this? And if they don't want to go with it, then fine. I'll just leave them to their own devices. They can go and get it made by somebody else, get it printed or whatever.
There's definitely a day tripper flag in the making.
Yeah, day tripper flag in the making. There'd be some. I'd say there'd be probably a little bit of back and forth on the design around that. There might be a few. There might be a few kind of debates about what should and shouldn't go on those on a flag for the day trippers. I have to say,
I can put you on the waiting list now, and you can know
think about it. Back to the bottom with plenty of time to think about it.
We would, yeah. Shane, just to close on this subject, like flags have just taken off, like generally, haven't they, for Liverpool? I mean, obviously Mark's heavily in demand, but aside from the fact that obviously the Kop has been sort of draped in various flags, I did notice, like, over the last few years that, like, we've gone from just maybe one flag or banner or whatever you want to term it, maybe one or two sort of big ones that would get sort of circulated across the Kop or across the centenary stand or whatever. Like, it's now, like, you see so many, don't you, at the start of when fans were in the ground, so many that were appearing at the start of the games, and some of the designs and some of the funny quips and all that sort of stuff, they were getting better and better, weren't they?
Yeah, and it's probably something that kind of organically kind of came about. You can see some teams that kind of make an effort. We all like slag Chelsea about the plastic flags under the seats and whatnot. Whereas Anfield, like, you can see, and I'd imagine, listen, Mark has already alluded to how much effort goes into making them, and then I'd imagine there's an awful lot of organisation goes on to the lads getting them there. Like, you see the boys with the flags, with the waivers and stuff like that, and an awful lot of stuff, and a lot of people doing brilliant work to make it as it is, to give it that atmosphere, because it's like, it's something to behold when you do get into Anfield and you're there, and you might be lucky enough to be on the Kop, but if you aren't, you're looking down at the flags and the banners waving before the game, and when the teams come out, and it's there's nothing kind of false about it, if that's the right way of saying it. It's all kind of people doing it off their own back, and they're doing it for the good of the club to make, and it's the fans. It's not like, obviously the club have to get involved with the people to get the banners out there, but it's the fans. It's the fans that are going out and doing the hard yards, like Mark making them, and like the people organising them to get the flags out and waving and stuff like that. They're the ones that help make the atmosphere, and they should be very proud of themselves. Really, in fairness.
Davo saying you'll never beat the Joey Jones banner from the 77 European Cup final. I have to say, some of my favourites, right, and it's completely different to what Mark produces, and but it makes me laugh so much, is when you see on occasions where some Liverpool fans have rocked up, they've basically just like spray painted a white
white sheet,
and they've rocked up at Goodison Park and stuck something up on the side of the rail.
I love the welcome to hell about the Grafton right now. I've been from Dublin. I've never had the pleasure of entering the Grafton, but I really like that banner. All right, when the Galatasaray games.
Yeah, I have to say, I went to the Grafton a couple of times when I was in my late teens, and it lived up to the reputation. Like, the age of the women who were grabbing me in all that. Oh my God, it was pretty rough at times. Absolutely mad scene. So it was a mad place. Right, so we'll get back onto the team, and look, we've got a massive European. I can only imagine the flags that would be there at Anfield on Wednesday night, and the banners and whatnot. The Kop would be in full cry, but unfortunately, we have to try and overturn that 3-1 deficit with the backdrop of an empty Anfield. Key thing on Wednesday night is going to be the front three or the front four, whichever way he decides to go. I guess there's a case for playing the four lads on Wednesday night and just going mental. Personally, I think we should try and play it a bit tighter and a bit cagey. Get to half time at 0-0 wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But obviously, Davo, your subject is the front three and how we potentially succession plan and evolve where we've been, which has been, let's face it, podcasts we've been doing consistently. When we get to team predictions, it would often be the three lads up front. There was no debate, there was no questioning. It was Firmino, it was Mane, it was Salah. That is now starting to look like, with the introduction of Jota, and obviously the form of some of those players this season, in particular Firmino, but lately also Mane as well, it has to be said. You have to think about what's next. What players potentially are we looking at targeting in the summer? Do we move one of them on? Do we move two of them on? Where's your head at the moment with all of that?
Just the topic was just kind of something I thought up on, really, because like you said, for the last, really, since the front three were all signed, there's been never a debate about any 1 to 11 in a huge game or any game that we weren't rotating. It was the front three. And it was interesting. I know we spoke about Monday Night Football before, but they actually did something on the front three, I think maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And kind of the amount of seasons say that the other kind of famous front threes, you think of Ronaldo, Tevez, Rooney, stuff like that, how long they've stayed together. And I think kind of the longest was about 2. I think that front three was 2 seasons. And obviously our one has been here a lot longer. And I suppose, listen, Mane turned 29 the other day. Salah is 28. They're all similar age profile by Jota, and it just kind of got me thinking. It's not something I don't have any kind of hard answer really. I just wanted to see, but maybe what the viewers thought and what you think as well. Like you said, is it one going to be moved on in the summer or the following summer? And kind of when is we always seem to hear that Michael Edwards, the transfer boys at the club, analysts, they're thinking a couple of windows down the line. Like, who do we move on? Is it a case of we think we'll get the most money for Salah, so we look to move him on because that's where you'll recoup most money? Is it Mane now is just gone 29? Is this kind of a form of long COVID he's suffering from at the minute, or is it the start of a slide? Firmino would have been the one probably in the last 6 months getting an awful lot of scrutiny, and he seems to have pulled the socks up a little bit recently. And he's also, I think, the Madrid game and how much time Kroos and Modric got in the ball, I think it showed that we missed Firmino that night personally. And I have criticised him in the past for his form as well, so it's not something that I didn't, not an article is saying like, he should definitely play. I've definitely criticised Firmino on his form, but I think obviously the likes of them games show like Kroos and Modric had so much time, the ball in the position that you'd fancy Firmino to get around and harry and hassle them. So just like there has to be, and I'm sure there is going to be succession planning, just whether it comes, who moves on, when do we move on, what kind of players are linked to come in. Like, we don't sign kind of superstars, the club try and make them. Is it going to be like say, for instance, O'Shawney is big on this fella Patson Daka at Salzburg, kind of a Eto Mane type. So just putting it out there to you lads, what you think? Who would you move one on or more? Who would it be, and what your reasons would be for that said player?
Mark, we've bounced ideas around front three and had debates about it. Obviously, you're a fresh face to us, so it'll be interesting to get your insight on whether you think going into next season you would look to move one of the front three. Let's leave Jota out of this because Jota's going nowhere. He's on the upward trajectory that we hope continues. For the other three, I've been, my view on Firmino is maybe he would be the guy, you move on, but at the same time, I'm not convinced I can't get my head around what kind of transfer fee you're gonna get for moving Firmino on. I struggle whether it be 30, 40, 50, 60 million. I could be miles off with my assessment. The other two, I think, would be more realistic to get, you know, a good return that you could then reinvest on a similarly good player. Where do you stand on those three for next season?
I mean, it's never an easy topic to talk about, really, because they're all players that I absolutely love, you know, and they've done such special things for the club. But inevitably, you know, there will come a time where the three of them together is no longer the best option for us up front. I think there's a few things to consider, and as you say, money unfortunately is one of them, and having the money to reinvest in new players, you're going to be looking for who's going to provide the best return. I'd say probably at the moment, given that he's provided us with so many goals for 3 or 4 seasons now, Salah is going to be the one who's going to command the biggest fee. I mean, but the problem you've got there is, how do you replace that kind of goal machine? Because that's what he is. The lad's are an absolute sensation. So, you know, you're going to be looking, if you're wanting to buy somebody ready-made to replace those kind of goals in the team, well, you're talking about absolute fortunes, because there's, you know, we all know the two names out there that can provide those kind of goals for you, but we're not. I don't really realistically think that we're in for Mbappe or in for Haaland. I don't think that, I don't think that they're going to come to us.
No, after seeing Mbappe last week, that just decided it for me. He's coming to Liverpool. He's not.
No, he's absolutely not. I mean, people, you know, there's all kinds of wishful thinking about deals with Nike and all of that kind of thing. It's not. It's just not happening. He's one of those players who's. I think he's going to have agents in his ear. They're going to be chasing the money, and they're going to go wherever he gets the biggest payday. So, you know, they're not realistic things. One thing that keeps coming into my head is, are we going to continue to see a front three? Because I mean, it's only a relatively recent phenomenon that we've got into this way of thinking where we have 3 players up front. You know, it's one spearheading and one either side. It wasn't so long ago, you know, when I first started going to games regularly, they talked about you needed 4 strikers, and there'd be 2 in the team, and there'd be 2 that you rotated them with, but it was 2 up top, and everybody was very regimented in this way of thinking about having 2 strikers and 2 that you could bring into the team when they weren't available. And we now seem to have got very regimented in this 3 up top thinking, because it's brought us success. But you know, maybe that kind of fixed thinking is perhaps what's found us out a little bit this season, and maybe a little bit of experimentation with systems at that end of the pitch. I think could be beneficial. I can see, because I think we've got players in the team who can play as a 10, and we haven't had a 10 for since Coutinho went. But I think Curtis Jones can be very effective in that role. I think Thiago could be effective in that role. Shaqiri obviously is still on the books at the moment. He's another player who can excel in there. So I wonder if maybe, as well as thinking about which players are going to go and which players are going to come in, I think maybe we might start to see a gradual shift away from this 3 up top thing.
Yeah, so Chris Brack's kind of touching on that, expanding on that. He thinks we potentially move to a 4-2-3-1. Genie replacement would be that number 10. And maybe we look at a more traditional number 9. Dare I say Harry Kane? No chance. So I mean, Andy, do you see us? Which bracket do you see us shopping in when we come to add another player into that front line? Do you see us shopping in the Mbappe, Haaland, Sancho kind of bracket, or do you see us shopping in the bracket that is a Neto or a Sarr, or some of these other, I guess, more obscure players who you get shouts of every now and again? Like, which bracket do you think we're going to shop in next season or in the summer? Let's assume we go out and get someone in the summer.
Yeah, I think the emergence of Haaland and a lot of attention now lately on Mbappe is probably taking the focus off Sancho now. So I think he becomes a more obtainable player than he previously was. There was a while he was probably the most spoken about player to move. So I think that's a realistic option now, Sancho. But I think nothing really changes as normal. I think the Klopp, and along with the backroom staff and the laptop room, they'll be identifying players that none of us are talking about. Shawnee's got a good shout there with Dicko. He comes in and there's goals there. It's a lot different to what we have in terms of Bobby and playing a false nine. I think how the 4-3-3 evolved under Klopp was by coincidence. I always say I don't think it was ever really the plan to have three very solid, disciplined midfielders in Wijnaldum, Fabinho, and Henderson midfield, and to allow the fullbacks bomb on. I think as Klopp's next team before he leaves in a few years is going to be a different shape and a different style. I think that's the easiest way that the team can evolve, trying to go out there and find the next Salah and find the next Mane. Imagine the pressure like that. Somebody comes in and they don't do Salah's numbers in the first few weeks, and the same with Mane. Like these are setbacks. So you bring in players that are maybe suiting the evolution of the team. And I think that's probably the direction we go, as Chris is saying. I think it was probably the original plan. But then you just found that these players just excelled in their positions, that Wijnaldum, Fabinho and Henderson became absolutely undroppable. Van Dijk and Gomez playing well and Mata playing well enabled the fullbacks to get forward. They got that protection and they became very creative. Like that's not a kind of a shape that you can maintain for a long time. And I think maybe we do go back to more conventional shape that other teams across Europe are playing. So, but I say we still stick in that bracket. I think by going out and selling Salah or whoever Mane to finance a big massive deal is a bad move. I think if a player like that does go, that you use it to strengthen in all areas, just like we kind of did when Coutinho moved. There was 3 or 4 top players bought from off the back of that. So I think we stick in the bracket of those players who do seem obtainable, and let the clubs with the silly money fight it out for Mbappe, because I don't think Mbappe or Haaland are going to do as well as they are doing at their next club. I just don't, it tends to happen with those big moves. They never really live up to the money. And when Liverpool are looking at what they can get, a player for maybe 10%, a 10% drop off in quality of player for 25% of the price, that's just a lot more realistic, I think. But I don't think we're going to scrimp. I think that the Nike deal, and once things get back to normal and there's fans in the ground again, they can start forecasting figures coming in, and they can look at what's affordable. We'll see them competing for players and the wage demands that are out there.
There's an interesting scenario Red Steve has put together there. Harvey Elliott going on loan to Leeds for a year next season to sweeten a deal for Rafinha coming to Liverpool. Davo, would you like to see us bringing in a player like that? Assuming that we're not going Mbappe Haaland's territory.
Well, listen, that could. There's a couple of different things, I suppose. Anytime I've seen Leeds and Rafinha, he's been really, really impressive. Seems to play off the right, which is obviously where Salah plays. So if you, like Chris Brack was saying, a change to a 4-2-3-1 with Salah through the middle, maybe would free up that position if Klopp is looking to evolve like that. But yeah, listen, anytime I've seen him this year, he's been really impressive, lightning quick, and able to finish, and a real kind of, I hate using these words, like a Klopp signing, you know what I mean? Somebody that's going to come in maybe partially under the radar, if you can ever really, I suppose, be under the radar, or particularly now if Liverpool sign you. But like, he could come in under the radar, not one of these big, huge names that goes for ridiculous money. And yeah, listen, it's like, if we sign him, it'd be definitely an exciting signing anyway. Yeah.
Just on the Leeds theme, I mean, a more conventional number 9 was mentioned. I think it was Chris who mentioned it. What about, going back to more traditional strikers like a Patrick Bamford? Do you ever see us going down that route again?
Oh, no, well, not Patrick Bamford anyway. I don't know about traditional number 9, but like number 9, Haaland is a number 9, Lewandowski is a number 9. They're like the top. I wouldn't. Mbappe is not.
No,
possibly maybe he could play through the middle. Or listen, of course he can play through the middle. But we're talking about kind of a imposing figure. I don't see us kind of going back to that. I don't really see it. I don't really see it because, listen, I don't watch enough. Really, like the likes of Chris Brack, and I'll be able to tell me more. I don't really hear, like, you hear of Haaland coming through. He's the man, and I'm sure there are kind of, you don't really hear the kind of that big centre forward, imposing centre forward anymore. Really, that the big teams go after. So,
I mean, Kumar says Bamford Championship level. Funny thing is, though, you wouldn't really have to go that far back where a player like Patrick Bamford would have been a potential realistic target for Liverpool, would you? When a club that's brought in the likes of Peter Crouch and Andy Carroll, Jesus, it just shows you how far we are away from those kind of, having to go and shop in those kind of sort of areas really at this stage. I mean, just coming back to you, Mark. I mean, look, we've got to be realistic. These, like, one of these lads is going to go sooner rather than later. Now they're kind of, in some ways it'd be amazing if we got like another season out of them, and maybe there's the will at the club and, the manager and the players themselves to say, look, this season has been such an anomaly due to, COVID and the injuries and what happened. And let's put this wrong right next season, whether we're in the Champions League or we're trying to add another one of those UEFA Cups, whichever way it turns out next season. Like, if you were a betting man right now, would you say the front three, or the traditional front three lads, are still with the club next season? Which way would you go?
I'd say no, and I'd say it's between Mane and Salah. Which one would go? Probably Mane, I think.
Okay, and.
Because
same question.
As I said before, I just think that it's the problem of replacing Salah's goals. It's just, for me, he's irreplaceable.
So you'd say he's the least likely to. So you'd say Salah's the least likely to go, and who's the most likely to go?
Mane.
Same question to you, Andy. Do you see the front three still being there next season?
Yeah, I do. I just think this isn't the season to make big decisions like that. I don't think you can take a huge amount from football this season. They're the performances are being impacted by so many different factors. Like we still see the same, but I think we might see some of our successors being brought in. I think Jota's absolutely Firmino's replacement that's happening as we speak. We can see he's more likely to start games now. And maybe during the summer we make a move for Rafinha or whoever, and they come in and start to slowly take Mane's place or whoever's place. I don't think they're going to demand big, huge, massive money like 150 million anyway. So I don't think there's a rush on doing it right away. So no, I see them being there. I don't see too many. I don't see many of the 11 being talked about being sold this summer. I think there'll be a lot of moves out, but they won't be players who featured very much.
I presume Bobby gets a rest in the summer, doesn't he? There's no.
No. South America's in shy. I only listened to Tim Vickery the other day, and because they cancelled these World Cup qualifiers, they've a huge amount of games to get done for the World Cup qualifiers, and there's a Copa America in the summer as well. Yeah. So he was kind of saying that the smart thing to do would be to cancel the Copa America, but he said, CONMEBOL get all their money in from that. There's obviously COVID issues as well. He went into it. He's one of the best people I love listening to on football, Tim Vickery. He actually just said the issues. He says, for a start, he says, I think it's in Argentina and Colombia are joint holding it, and they don't border each other. They're on opposite ends of the continent. Colombian are banning Brazilian flights. There's no flights coming in from Brazil. Brazil are drawn in Colombia for their group games and all. He just said it's an absolute shit show from start to finish. And I don't know about rests for any of the. I don't know what's going to happen there as regarding rest for the South American players, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want them going back, would you? Let's face it. Given the situation in that part of the world on the pandemic front, you wouldn't really want the likes of Alisson and Firmino and Fabinho. You wouldn't want them lads travelling back home over the summer, really, would you?
No, you couldn't. Like, it's only you're nearly guaranteeing yourself someone to come back with a case of it, and Alisson and whether the players have been vaccinated by then, who knows? Just on the last point there, I think part of my topic was as well, if like is a situation where you see the club making a move where we're kind of surprised, maybe someone comes in and bids 55, 60 million, 65 million for Mane, and the club kind of go, he's 29, we've been looking at replacing him. You know, kind of a surprise move that comes from left field where it takes us all by surprise. And we're kind of, my point would be, I think Ferguson at United used to be renowned for selling at the right time. Now, Michael Edwards has got renowned for getting big money for average players. And now we're going to kind of see, are we going to sell maybe some of our more established players that the club see are slightly on the decline rather than before the fans will? And I just wonder whether that might be Mane or Firmino this summer, you know, where you don't think, I'd probably be agreeing with Andy, I probably think they'll all still be there. But does someone come in with a sly bid of 65 million for Mane, and the club kind of think, well, we've been looking at this fella and right, we'll go with that in this. I don't know the answer, to be honest. It's just
put it this way: by hanging on to all three of them for another season, you guarantee the fact that if you come to sell one of them in the following summer, that you're not going to get the same value for them because they're that year older. They've got that much more football in the legs, and so on and so forth. So they're going to have to be prepared to, you know, if they're going to sell in the following summer, they're going to have to be prepared to take a lesser value for whichever of those players. And I suppose the risk is if you hang on to them for another year, then you're possibly in more of a situation where you're not just moving one of them on, you're moving two of them on. So you've got to think of that aspect to it as well. So just your final assessment, Davo, you think they will hold on to the 3 plus Jota?
I think if I had to hazard a guess, like what Andy was saying, but this year that's in it, and more so probably to the point that Edwards probably doesn't think we'll get the money or won't be happy with the bids that come in. Maybe if someone is interested, because we're all in kind of a COVID timeline, football included. Market for players, like even you talk about like Salah and Harry Kane, like who has the money to pay in this day and age, or where we are now with COVID, who has the money to pay the prices that Spurs would want or Liverpool would want? So I think the three of them will probably still be there. But if one was to be gone, I would probably say Firmino would be the one if one was to go.
He's probably the least impactful in terms of lead. I think we can adapt to losing Firmino with the right kind of replacement coming in and maybe a slight change of system or whatever. I mean, the reality is, I think, you know, Jota has been an excellent sign, and unfortunately, I think when you sort of look back at this season, if we do miss out on top four, aside from the obvious miss of Van Dijk, and then obviously the accumulation of centre-back injuries, you know, missing Jota for that period of time when we really could have done, you know, particularly through that stretch of sort of 6 home games, when we really could have done with him being part of the squad, part of the rotation, part of keeping lads on the toes and chipping in with important goals like that potentially could be, you know, the biggest reason why we ultimately maybe fall a point or two short, because I'm sure with Jota around for all of those games, we would have accumulated, you know, points that would have had us maybe in fourth already. Do you know what I mean? And people try and hunt us down, unfortunately. So look, we'll wrap up. Before we do finish, we're just over the hour and a half mark. Thanks to everyone in the comments being put in. It's been really interactive as usual. We absolutely love seeing the comments come through, and I'm sure you get a lot out of some of the banter back and forth. I just obviously important, being so many important games this season, but look, it's a massive game on Wednesday. I was listening to the lads last night on the Fatback 4. Keith was at the forefront of the prediction. It was an Andy-esque type of prediction. 4-1 win for, you know, fair play, Keith. You know, you had Shawnee at the other end of the scale, who just absolutely thinks that Madrid are gonna, you know, it's going to be a rope-a-dope, and they're going to absolutely sucker punches. They're just going to pick the moments on Wednesday, and that's very plausible. Just want to quickly go around. Start with you, Mark. How do you see Wednesday, and what's your prediction for whether we progress or not?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think we have got a chance. I think if we do progress, I think it will be with a 2-0 win. That's really the only scoreline I can see taking us through. Because I don't think we don't seem to at the moment have more goals than that in us, you know. So yeah, I think we've got to keep it tight at the back. We've got to try and get our way through to half time, preferably with a goal in the bag, but certainly with no goals conceded, and then take it from there. But yeah, I think I'll be optimistic. Let's say we'll do them 2-0.
Yeah, brilliant. I like it. I like the positivity. Andy, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think
Except Liverpool.
I'm not coming on and saying we're getting beaten. Now we're not 2-0. Look, we're due a hungry performance. This is our season now. You know what I mean? If they can turn this around, there's going to be massive belief for the rest of the season, and that they can go on and do something. All of a sudden, I said that on the pod there before the game, I couldn't understand the confidence going into it. And now I can't understand the negativity going into it. It's kind of just mad, like these fucking extremes that people live in. Liverpool are well capable of turning this game around with or without a crowd. You'd obviously fancy ourselves really strongly with the away goal going back home with a crowd. But they're well capable. And I hope there's a belief in the team that they can do it. Because Madrid can be got at. With plenty of quality there to win 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect any less, Andy, on your side. Davo, don't know whether you caught much of the game against Barcelona, but Barcelona really were in control of that game, and they did. They caught them lovely a couple of times, and Barca came back into it, and obviously they even had a chance at the end to grab the equaliser. I can see Shawnee's points from last night, but are you gonna be sort of optimistic?
No, enough of that optimistic show that the lads are on there. We're fucking
Get back down.
Listen, I didn't see the Classico. I just seen Shawnee, a couple of comments on it that they kind of suckered Barca a couple of times on the break. I think if I kind of see where the game, listen, with a crowd there, I think we'd have a great chance. I think our biggest chance on Wednesday might maybe come from a little bit of complacency from Madrid. They're missing a few players. We were absolutely septic, particularly in the first half. We had a good 15 minutes in the second half. Then we weren't great either after that. So hopefully we can't play any worse. Well, listen, we will play better than we played in Madrid. I've absolutely no doubts about that. Hopefully a bit of complacency can set in. I can see us winning the game, but I can also see us maybe getting pipped with it, getting suckered with a goal, or maybe 1-0 up and chasing the goal, second one late and getting caught. I would be doubtful of us going through.
Yeah,
be doubtful of us going through. But listen, we are well capable, and listen, if we the crowd there, I think listen, I'm sure you were at some of them games, right? In the Julier's game back after this heart attack, and where you needed to win 2-0, the Olympiacos game with Gerrard to win by 2 clear goals. Anfield just has some magical nights from them days. But look, the crowd isn't going to be there, so it's going to be a big ask.
Yeah, it's a shame. Obviously, there's some level of restrictions being relaxed today in the UK. It's just a shame that obviously we couldn't at least get a few thousand fans in for that game, or they would have been able to kind of exert a little bit of influence and whatnot. And it would have been, even seeing a few thousand fans would have been a massive boost for the players, the manager, a bit of extra motivation to go and do it, for those fans who'd have been looking to be in there. Personally, I'm on the realistic side of things. I don't think Madrid are any great shakes, and I'm really hoping that if we can keep it tight in the first half, then we can potentially do it in the second half. Because that game, that must have took an awful lot out of Madrid the other night. The conditions were horrendous, absolutely horrendous. I've never seen a football match in Spain played in those types of conditions. It was unbelievable.
It was a pissing rain, was it?
Oh, the swell and rain, and oh my God! And that stadium, because it's small, it's very exposed. Like, they were just getting hammered out of it. I mean, Messi at one stage, there was a stoppage in the play, 70 minutes. Messi just went over to the sideline and just got his shirt and his undershirt changed for a dry one. Like, it was absolutely mad. So I'm hoping maybe that did take a lot out of them. If we can keep it tight and we can get into the second half, a situation where we only need one more goal, but I do fear that we'll get caught at least on one occasion. So I'm going to predict a 2 win and maybe fall a little bit short, but I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping we can keep that clean.
Same. I really hope we can fucking deal with it.
Yeah. So look, that's been the forum. That's been our Monday night show. There'll be plenty more this week. Obviously, there'll be some more previews ahead of the Madrid game. I'd imagine the midweek fix on Wednesday will actually be a match review format, and then as we get later into the week, you'll get your normal show on a Friday with actually, I have to say, I've listened to that a few times. Great selection of lads from different fan bases, Villa lads, Leeds lads. Really do add a good bit to Chris's Friday night forecast show. So big thanks obviously to Andy and Davo, but an extra big thanks to Mark for showing off his brilliant banners, but even more so for sharing and being honest about his journey over the last few years, and particularly the last 12 months. It's obviously been a tough 12 months or so for, I'm sure, everyone who tunes in. So to find a bit of inspiration about a lad out there who's actually turned things around over the last 12 months and producing some brilliant work. Hats off to you, Mark. Brilliant to have you on, yeah?
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, so we'll see you next Monday. Might be a complete shake-up. You know, you never know. Neil Mellor might pop right friend of the show. Andy's best. You know, we don't name drop that much, but Neil Mellor is
no biggie. No biggie.
No biggie.
Friend of the pod. Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. He'll always be a friend of the pod. Right.
Yeah, so we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. See you later.